Brazil's long coastline, its offshore energy fields, and its expanding trade routes across the South Atlantic have always demanded more than a conventional naval posture. They require persistence, reach, and a credible deterrent beneath the surface. This is the context in which the SBR submarine program emerges not as a mere procurement effort, but as a strategic transformation. With Riachuelo, Humaitá, Tonelero, and the newly launched Almirante Caram, Brazil is reshaping its position in the South Atlantic and demonstrating that a nation seeking greater global relevance must master the silent domain of undersea operations. For viewers following Brazil's rise in defense capabilities, understanding the meaning of these 4 submarines is essential to understanding the long-term trajectory of Brazilian maritime power. The increasing relevance of the South Atlantic is rooted in economic, security, and geopolitical dynamics. Brazil does not face a direct military threat from neighboring states, but it does face substantial offshore responsibilities. The pre-salt oil reserves, critical shipping lanes, and the sheer length of the national coastline require capabilities that go far beyond surface patrols. Across the world, emerging middle powers have used modern submarines to expand strategic depth, protect maritime resources, and signal technological maturity. Brazil's decision to invest heavily in undersea warfare reflects this global pattern, but with a distinctly national dimension: the desire to secure the South Atlantic as a zone of stability under Brazilian leadership. For decades, Brazil relied on the Tupi and Ticuna classes, solid platforms but increasingly outdated, in a region where maritime threats and technologies evolve rapidly. Their gradual obsolescence made it clear that Brazil needed a new generation of submarines that could operate farther, dive deeper, remain quieter, and integrate into a long-term industrial strategy. This is where the SBR program takes on its larger significance. More than acquiring equipment, Brazil chose to build a sovereign industrial ecosystem to construct, maintain, and upgrade its submarines for decades to come. The SBR submarines are based on the French Scorpène design, but represent an expanded and Brazilian-adapted variant, optimized for national operational needs. Through PROSUB and the Itaguaí shipyard complex, Brazil has achieved one of the most ambitious defense industrial projects in the Southern Hemisphere. The technological transfer agreements provided not only hull construction expertise, but also training for engineers, metallurgists, naval architects, and maintenance specialists. Brazil today possesses an industrial base capable of supporting a submarine force, something that only a handful of nations have developed. This is why public discourse within Brazil often describes SBR not simply as platforms, but as symbols of scientific achievement and national competence. Each submarine in the class contributes a distinct chapter to this narrative of capability building. Riachuelo, the first of the series, validated Brazil's new shipyard infrastructure and demonstrated that local industry could meet the demanding standards of submarine production. Humaitá followed with improved assembly efficiency, reinforcing the credibility of the production line. Tonelero marked the transition from industrial learning to industrial routine, proving that Brazil was no longer experimenting, but producing. The recent launch of Almirante Caram in 2025 became a national media event because it represented both the culmination of this phase of PROSUB and the beginning of the next strategic step toward nuclear propulsion. Technically, the SBR submarines offer Brazil the tools needed for a credible undersea presence across the South Atlantic. Their low acoustic signature, advanced combat systems, and optimized endurance make them ideal for monitoring the pre-salt region, protecting offshore infrastructure, and mapping maritime activity across Brazil's exclusive economic zone. Their ability to deploy quietly and remain submerged for extended periods adds significant uncertainty for any actor attempting to challenge Brazil's maritime interests. In a region where deterrence is based less on open confrontation and more on presence and perception, a modern submarine fleet becomes a decisive asset. Strategically, these submarines support Brazil's evolving role in international maritime security. Brazil has increased participation in operations such as Guinex in the Gulf of Guinea, projecting stability in a region threatened by piracy, trafficking, and violent non-state actors. A modern submarine fleet enhances Brazil's credibility as a provider of regional security, not only defending national assets but enabling participation in multinational initiatives that strengthen diplomatic and defense ties. As Brazil aspires to greater global influence, its Navy must match this ambition with capabilities that demonstrate long-term reliability and strategic commitment. Public sentiment inside Brazil toward the SBR program reflects a mix of enthusiasm, pride, and pragmatic concern. Many citizens view the submarines as a milestone in national development, proof that Brazil can master complex technologies and operate at the same level as advanced maritime powers. The celebration surrounding the launch of Almirante Caram shows how strongly this technological narrative resonates. At the same time, a portion of the population raises questions about the financial burden of such programs, especially given social and economic demands across the country. It is important to frame these debates accurately. Investment in submarine construction generates highly skilled jobs, stimulates domestic supply chains, and creates technological spillover effects into other industrial sectors. The economic return is not immediate, but structural, contributing to national resilience over decades. This industrial foundation leads directly to Brazil's most ambitious naval goal, the development of its first nuclear-powered submarine, the SNBR. The conventional SBR fleet is not the end state, but rather the necessary stepping stone. Brazil's nuclear project aims to provide unlimited underwater endurance, extended operational range, and the ability to operate across the South Atlantic without the constraints of battery limitations. Achieving this capability would place Brazil among a very small group of nations with indigenous nuclear submarine programs. Such a step would dramatically reshape Brazil's strategic posture by allowing persistent undersea presence far beyond its coastline and reinforcing its identity as a leading South Atlantic power. Yet this ambition comes with challenges: reactor development, budget stability, and long-term maintenance capacity. These are not obstacles but milestones in a larger journey that Brazil has clearly committed to. The SBR program therefore represents far more than hardware. It forms the backbone of a national strategy that integrates maritime security, industrial autonomy, scientific advancement, and geopolitical ambition. Brazil is not seeking confrontation, but seeking to ensure that its maritime domain, an essential pillar of its economic future, remains secure, stable, and under national control. By investing in submarines that improve deterrence and situational awareness, Brazil is reducing vulnerabilities and reinforcing its ability to shape regional security dynamics. As Brazil looks toward 2030 and beyond, the combination of a modern conventional submarine fleet, a maturing industrial base, and a future nuclear-powered capability creates a strategically coherent roadmap. The SBR submarines provide immediate operational value while preparing Brazil for a long-term leap in maritime power. They support national interests at home, enhance Brazil's credibility abroad, and inspire a sense of collective achievement among citizens who see in these vessels a symbol of what Brazil can accomplish when long-term vision meets industrial determination. For viewers who follow Brazil's ascent as a defense industrial actor, the SBR program offers a case study in how strategic ambition, technological sovereignty, and maritime security converge. Brazil is not merely expanding its navy, it is redefining its role in the South Atlantic and building capabilities that will shape regional stability for decades. Those who wish to follow this evolution through the progress of SNBR, the Tamandaré-class frigates, and future modernization programs are invited to stay engaged, subscribe, and continue exploring the story of a nation that is steadily transforming into a significant maritime power.